Think about the biggest bills you pay every month: rent, mortgage, groceries. Now, think about the bills you cannot legally opt out of. Oh, you know the ones: insurance. Those are silently rising faster than all the others combined. In the past few years, millions of working professionals have moved to historically cheaper states such as Tennessee, Texas, and Florida. They thought they were going to escape the high cost of living. They thought they'd beat the system. You know it's not going to happen. The moment they arrived, their auto insurance premiums doubled, their homeowner insurance spiked by 30%, and the utility rates, they broke records. We've reached a terrifying milestone in 2026, the uninsurable lifestyle trap. You don't have to live extravagantly to go broke anymore. You can skip the luxury vacations, cook every meal at home, drive a 10-year-old beat-up car, and fix non-discretionary corporate traps will still empty your checking account. The death of personal choice. This is the irritating part. When economists talk about inflation, they love to focus on things you can control. They'll tell you to stop buying those $5 lattes, cancel your streaming subscriptions, or buy generic brand cereal. It's a convenient narrative because it puts the blame entirely on you. All of us out there, the tax-paying citizen, go to clock into work every day, doing the right thing, and we're still getting hammered. But let's look at the data they choose to ignore. Non-discretionary expenses. The structural bills you are legally or practically forced to pay just to exist in modern society. The insurance extortion scheme. We're going to start with car insurance. You legally can't drive without it. Yet nationwide, auto insurance rates have skyrocketed by an average of over 20% year over year. If you live in states like Florida, California, that number is closer to 30 or 40%. Why? Corporate insurers claim it's because of rising repair costs and climate risks. Ah, the reality is far more predatory. They're actively adjusting the corporate profit margins on the backs of the drivers who have no legal choice but to pay up. So that's where they got you. By law, you have to have a minimum of car insurance. You may not have to get all the fun bells and whistles so they can squeeze even more money out of you, but you got to have the basics, and they know that. So they're going to stick it to you every time. Your clean driving record doesn't matter. The system dictates you pay more simply because you exist in their risk pool. The migratory trapdoors. It gets worse if you try to run from it. Over the past few years, we have witnessed historic migration. Millions of families, they have fled high-tax, high-cost cities for what they thought were safe havens. Places like I mentioned, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. But what happened? The moment the massive wave of people arrived, localized infrastructure, they responded. The utility companies, they're monopolies. They immediately raised baseline electricity and water rates by double-digit margins. That's the fun in the grid expansion. Suddenly, that cheap lifestyle had vanquished. You thought you were moving into a cheaper lifestyle city. You thought you might have left the blue states like New York and California, and you moved into these other states, typically red states, that have a lower cost of living. But these monopolies, they got you. They understand that, hey, there's more people being put on the grid, so that's going to be their justification to raise the rates. Your mortgage or rent may be slightly lower, but your mandatory fixed overhead, it's clearly wiped out the savings. The grid monopoly. The single most predatory draining your bank account is the utility bill. You can live in the dark, keep your AC off all summer long, sweating to death in your house. My God, you can go the way of the caveman. But your utility bill, it's going to be higher than it was 3 years ago. Why? Because you're dealing with a legal monopoly. You can't switch to a competitor if your power company decides to raise rates. You have to buy from them. Why? Because in most towns, there's one electric company, one water department, one gas company. So, the corporate utility giants, they know exactly how much leverage they hold over you. The green transition, that's the bait and switch. Right now, power companies across the country are quietly pushing historic rates through state regulators. They're using terms like infrastructure modernization and green energy transitions. Yeah, how well have those green energy initiatives taken place in the past 15 years done for us? You know, all those windmill farms and solar panels being put up. Any of you guys out there invest in any of that? How well is that paying off for you? So, yes, for example, in California, PG&E rate hikes have left families paying hundreds of dollars more per year just to keep the lights on. In Texas, grid instability has turned basic electricity into a volatile commodity. They aren't paying for these multi-billion dollar upgrades out of their own corporate profits. When you think about it, they want to expand. They're not using their money. No. These billionaires are not going to use their cash. They're going to pass the cost on to you. Yes, the customer. You've done nothing wrong. You're just merely existing and you don't want to live in the dark and you like to have some running water in your house. And what do? They're going to pass that cost of the grid expansion onto you. They're forcing to finance their future infrastructure while their executives take home record profits. You know those guys that get the bonuses every year for doing nothing except maybe laying off a bunch of people or jacking up the baseline rates for everybody because they have a monopoly on the customer base? Yeah. The fixed fee extortion. This is the dirtiest trick in the playbook, the rise of mandatory fixed customer charges. Look closely at your next bill. You could have lived in the dark like a caveman for a month, using zero electricity. You're still charged a massive baseline fee just to be connected to the grid. They are systematically moving the goalpost. See, these big companies, they realized that consumers were successfully lowering their power usage to save money. So they simply raised the mandatory baseline fees to guarantee their corporate revenue. You can't budget your way out of a system that rewrites the rules every time you start to win. Reframe the narrative. When all these mandatory uninsurable expenses, the auto insurance hikes, the grid connection fees, the healthcare premiums completely outpace your paycheck, something has to break, and that's going to be you. The mainstream financial press loves to paint a picture of the average consumer as irresponsible. They see surging debt metrics and write articles about how Americans need to stop overspending on luxury goods or tropical vacations. It's the ultimate deflection. But let's look at what is actually happening behind the closed doors. Before we look at what's behind the closed doors, think about their narrative for a moment. These billionaire companies really think that, oh, you know what? Johnny, he's not paying to keep the lights on this month at the house. Instead, he's going to go on vacation. You know, the tropical vacations they discuss. Yeah, he's going to be sipping mojitos with his feet up in the air at the beach, but he's going to go home to a house that's hotter than hell in the summertime because he can't afford to keep the AC running and the lights aren't on. Yeah, that's the narrative. They really think that's how people are living day to day. They're foregoing all the basic life necessities so they can go on vacation and drink those $5 lattes. The data bomb. According to the newest data from the Federal Reserve, collective U.S. credit card debt has reached an unprecedented, staggering $1.25 trillion. Think about that number. If you stack that amount of dollar bills, it would reach 1/3 of the way to the moon. That's a hell of a stretch. The average individual cardholder is now carrying over $6,500 in revolving credit card debt. But here's a distinction. The corporate news won't tell you people aren't maxing out their plastic at high-end designer stores. The average person, they're swiping for their bare existence. They're covering their monthly cost on their credit cards to get by. So they're using the credit card as a synthetic life support system to buy milk, fill up the gas tank to get to work, and to cover their mandatory auto insurance premiums. The interest rate extortion. Here's how the system completely traps you once you're on that life support. The average interest rate on credit card accounts assessed interest is currently sitting at extraordinary 22.15%. If your credit is just average, large banks are pushing you closer to a 25% APR. That's a mathematical trap. It's designed to ensure you never escape. Imagine how much the interest payments are going to be on that credit card at 25%. If you carry a $5,000 balance and make standard payments, you aren't paying down the principal. You're just handing free, predictable wealth transfer over to massive banking conglomerates. Yeah, so you're feeding their billionaire lifestyle. You're running a treadmill that's speeding up every single month just to stay in the same exact place. You gotta get away from the high interest credit cards. They'll kill you. Which brings us to the wage divergence. The ultimate breaking point of modern economy. The corporate system demands that you pay 2026 prices for car insurance, 2026 prices for utility grids, and 2026 prices for basic groceries. But look at your paycheck. The mechanism to earn an honest living is stuck in a completely different decade. Our paychecks aren't keeping up with these prices of everything going up. Companies are reporting record-breaking net profits, using automated AI gatekeepers to cut administrative overhead, and freezing baseline compensation frameworks. They expect you to absorb a 30% spike in fixed living costs while offering you an insulting 2% annual raise. Yeah, because that 2% annual raise is really keeping up with inflation. Refusing the isolation. The most dangerous part of this entire crisis isn't the shrinking bank account balance, it's the isolation. The system wants you to look at mounting credit card statements or your unpayable insurance bill in total silence. I don't hear you complain about life sucking for you just because every single aspect of life has gone up. Everything has gone up in price. The cost of living is just outrageous, but your paycheck isn't even near close to meeting those new demands. They want you to feel ashamed. So you turn inward and blame your own work ethic. They want to think everyone else is thriving while you're the only one drowning. But it's a statistical illusion. Millions of hardworking professionals are staring at the exact same spreadsheet every single month, wondering how doing everything right left them completely behind. The system is rigged against us. Each individual out there who's trying to live right, do the right thing, they're being squashed by the current system because it's rigged against us. The moment you realize you aren't the problem, you stop letting them break your spirit. That's about all we have left because we sure as hell don't have any money. The economic metrics you see on mainstream media, they're a fiction designed to make you feel isolated in your struggle. You aren't alone, you aren't crazy. The system is fundamentally broken. But talking about the reality of it is the exact point where we refuse to play their game anymore. We have to call it out. What is the single most absurd fixed bill, utility charge, or insurance premium hike that hit your household budget this month? Let's put the numbers out in the open, expose this BS together. Drop a comment. If you want to see exactly how this broken economic system is bleeding directly into the employment market, watch this video. If you enjoy my content, hit that like and subscribe. Let's make this channel grow. I appreciate your time. I'll see you soon.